There's an interesting medrash related to the story at the beginning of Parshas Vayera. The Torah tells us that Vayera, love Hashem appears and comes to Avram and V'nei Shlosha, Vayar V'nei Shlosha Anashim Nitzavim Lo. There are three people coming, guests for Avram Avinu. What's the backdrop though? Avram wanted guests. The medrash fills in that it was HaKadosh Baruch Hu had taken out the Chama Min Artika, he had unsheathed the sun to make it very, very strong because Avram was recuperating from his bris milah at the end of last week's parsha. But he desperately wanted guests. So the Medrash says, what did he do? He said, there are no guests coming. He sent out Eliezer. Shadrei Eliezer l'meipak l'bara. He sends Eliezer outside, go find some guests. We need to do achnasas orchim. I want to do achnasas orchim. Nafak v'lo ashkach. But he looked and he couldn't find any. Amar, and Avram said, Lo mehemnalach. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. And he goes out himself and he looks and he finds the guests. And you're left wondering, why didn't he believe him? What was it that was so troubling to Avram Avinu that it couldn't be that Eliezer couldn't find guests? I have to go out myself, and he helped me find guests, but he didn't really find guests. He found guests that HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent him special. So what was wrong with what Eliezer did? What was Avram Avinu trying to say? I remember a beautiful idea that Rav Juk writes, that what Avram Avinu understood is that when you really want something in Ruchnius, you need to push yourself as hard as you can. And sometimes we give up a little bit too early. It's a famous story of the Brisker Rav. It was Erev Yom Kippurim, and there was a student who had been taken to the army and he needed to get him out, and he sent to the Vada Yeshivas, we have to try and get him out before Yom Kippur. And the response was, Yefshar, it's impossible, we can't do it. And he sent back an answer, and he said, don't say that it's impossible, say that you don't want to. Say that you don't want to. You don't want to do something that's a little bit too difficult. You don't want to push yourself a little bit harder. And that's what Avram Avinu understood. In the realm of Ruchnius, Ein Davar Omed B'fnei Ratzon, there's nothing which stands in the way of our desire to do things. We really want to do something, and sometimes we find a way even through the most difficult of circumstances. And that's what Avram was telling us. Not that I don't believe you. He said, I don't believe that you really tried as hard as you want. Maybe you have to try a little harder. And when Avram tried, he ended up succeeding. HaKadosh Baruch Hu saw, I want this gain in Ruchnius. I want this spiritual elevation. And he was able to succeed. Because sometimes we say that we can't, when really it's that we won't. I was thinking about this a little bit this week. I had the privilege of running in the New York City Marathon on Sunday. It was extraordinarily difficult. And it was after a lot of training. And I trained appropriately. I had the coach laid out for me exactly what to do, and I followed all the steps. And I was somewhat confident going in that with Hashem's help, I will be able to succeed. But the weather wasn't exactly what was anticipated. It was very, very, very hot, much hotter than usual. And as a result, by the time I got to mile 12, my legs had fully cramped up. 14 plus miles to go. And at that point, I easily could have told myself that I tried, I did what I could, it's just too much. But I wanted to finish so badly that I just kept pushing through. And it doesn't speak to anything about me. It's a mindset that when we have a goal and we want to do something, so we figure out a way. The legs lock up, the quads, everything is cramping and spasming. You push a little further, you take a break, you stop, you move. Everything is when we have goals that we want to achieve. We can push ourselves in ways that we don't always realize. And sometimes we sell ourselves short because there are challenges that occur in life. And we don't want to be uncomfortable. We don't want to push that little bit extra. And maybe subconsciously, we just decide, okay, I can't do it anymore. I tried everything that I could. But sometimes when you're pushed against the wall, that's exactly when you can push a little bit harder. You can say, no, I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to take no for an answer. I'm going to push. And it's those spiritual gains that, to me at least, was the biggest benefit of having run something that I never imagined I could do. It was a way of training myself in a lesson that is valuable in running, but much more in life, which is that sometimes we sell ourselves short. We say that we can't, when really it's that we won't. And that when obstacles come, we daven, we try, and we can push ourselves just a little bit harder. That's this lesson of Avram Avinu. The lesson of Avram Avinu is I want to do chesed, I want to do something for somebody else. I want to push myself, I want to grow in my learning. I want to finish a marathon, whatever it might be, I want to achieve my goals. if we set for ourselves real goals, and we set the bar high, and we make a plan, and we work, and we daven, and we try, then sometimes, even when it gets to the point where we think we just can't anymore, there's still something left in the tank. We can push a little further and hopefully achieve all of our goals, all of that HaKadosh Baruch Hu can help us do, and in that sense, accomplish what Avraham Avinu was setting out to teach us, that sometimes miracles happen, amazing things happen, guests come out of nowhere. But those are the blessings of HaKadosh Baruch Hu.